I'd never mentioned that there were men as dark as this. Wow, look at that nose. He's just like a pig. He's a monster! Hut!
In today's episode, I'm joined by Sharon Kon, who is a filmmaker who created the film The Father's Love. I want to give you the opportunity to explain to the audience what the film is about, and also thank you for being here.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. So basically, The Father's Love is based on a true story. It's based on my story. It's about a young woman who's looking for love in all the wrong places, but true love finds her. She moved to the big city, and there's just so many different options, and a lot of things going on, and, where her heart gets broken. I don't want to give it away too much, but for those who haven't seen it, they can actually go watch it. And at some point, she finds her true love.
Okay. Outside of it being partially based off of a true story, why did you decide to make this film?
Why did I decide to make this film? That's a good question. Well, I think there's a message in there that I'd like to share. I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, and for me, it's basically sharing God's love and how that true love is Him.
Okay. One of the reasons why I contacted you is because you're the first movie that I come across that features a black male with an Asian female as like kind of the lead romantic couple. Why did you decide to have such a unique couple in your film?
Because it was a true story.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, Angela Lin basically played me, and I dated, black males, and that's why I wanted that to be the way it is.
Okay. And going a little bit deeper, there's an article that I read on a blog called I'm Not the Nanny, where an Asian woman says that she had to hide the fact that she was dating a black man for 3 years from her parents. And when they found out, they temporarily disowned her. So my question is, do you think there's still a stigma associated with Asian women dating black men, either from the community itself or just for Asian women?
It's an interesting question, because I think at the end of the day, it really depends on where you grew up. I feel like if you grew up in Asia, it's totally different altogether. There are parents who are very, very conservative, who would obviously love that their daughter or their son would date, somebody else that's of the same race. That's only because of, how they were raised and what they're comfortable with. But I would say that parents or kids that grew up in America, it could be a totally different thing, whereby, it's just a little bit more open. I don't think it's so much of a stigma when it's more in America, but I think that me growing up in Malaysia, seeing how things are before, I would say that I could see that a little bit more.
Okay. So
and also I have an Indian girlfriend, and her parents have lived in the United States for a long time, and they don't want her dating anyone else outside her race. So
it depends, but you would say it's less of a stigma in the West or in America?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Going into Hollywood, another thing that I reached out to you about was the portrayal of white male and Asian females, like in the media. There's a film coming out on Netflix called To All the Boys I Loved Before, which has Lena Condor in it. She's an Asian American woman. People are saying that's progress, but there's also like a controversy surrounding it because four of the guys that she's dating or pursuing are white and one is black. Some people say that's a token black guy, but the point is that people look at these types of films and they say that white men and Asian women are promoted to benefit white men at the expense of non-white men, including Asian men, at least of Asian women, that is. Do you agree with that belief, or why not?
Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
Okay, it was kind of loaded, but point is that there's a film called To All the Boys I Loved Before. You've got 4 white guys, 1 black guy. People are mad because you have a white guy. Sorry, people are mad because you have white men with Asian women being portrayed again, and they say that this hurts people of color, including Asian men, to date Asian women. Do you agree with that? Why or why not?
Uh, you know, I've being an Asian myself, I've seen a lot of different Asians. There are Japanese, there are Koreans, there are Chinese. I'm Malaysian, and I mean, like I've noticed that a lot. There are a number of I guess more of the Chinese would date Caucasian men, but if I look at Japanese and Koreans, they're more open to to black males. Um,
I guess what I'm getting at is that it's not even about the black men at this point. It's that, and my next question will kind of go deeper into this, is that these types of films, while people say this is racial progress because you have an Asian American woman who is leading the film,
Yeah.
it seems to be always on the terms of white people. So you have 4 white guys and 1 black guy. It's not about necessarily, okay, there's a token black guy. It's that there's no Asian guys. There's no Hispanic guys. It's mostly white men. And I guess my question is just basically like, do you feel as though Hollywood promotes white male, Asian female couples at the expense of non-white men based off of that?
at the expense of non-white men.
Especially
Um,
including Asian men.
you know, the thing is that like even with Asian women being in Hollywood, starring in Hollywood movies, that's a progress in itself.
Yeah.
Because there are not a lot of movies, where Asian women are being portrayed, or even Asian women and black and Asian men are portrayed together, except for the comedy Fresh Off the Boat.
Yeah.
And obviously because that's pretty strictly Asian, but that's also like Americanized. I think sometimes maybe, yeah, at the expense, only because you want to say white sells.
Yeah. That's part of it. I would say that's part of it. It's easy to sell anything, including interracial relationships, when there's a white partner, man or woman, than it is to have like even somebody who's half black or Hispanic. I'm half black, half Hispanic. A film like that wouldn't sell as much as a white guy with a black girl. Like that's so again. I mean, I'm not so much even focusing on black men not being able to date Asian women or maybe having issues with Asian women. It's the idea that interracial relationships in the media always seem to be focused on Asian women dating white men. That's what I was getting at. And that kind of leads into my next question, which is going to go deeper into it. Let me find it. There is a history of Hollywood portraying white male, Asian female couples in controversial ways. So I looked on IMDb, and there's a film from 1987 called China Girl, which is a modern day telling of Romeo and Juliet with a white man and an Asian woman. You have Come See to Paradise, which is another film. White man with a Japanese woman during World War II when Japanese people were sent to internment camps. And my question is, controversial as it be, why do you think that Hollywood pairs white men with Asian women in controversial ways, and how does that make you feel to know that that happens?
I think that Hollywood is all about making money, because obviously when you make a movie, it takes tons of money, and sometimes you don't even make it back. And for me, I personally think that it's all about profit. and that's why that's being chosen the way it is. Only because I think that, probably one of the things is that society is not ready, or maybe somewhat it's also controlled by Hollywood, to portray, and Caucasian and Asian together, and just magnifying that, rather than doing more so of a diversified movie or show. So I think it's all about making profits and distribution.
Okay. So it's not so much that they care about being controversial, it's about making money. That's what at the cost of anything.
Yep.
Okay. I guess I'll move on. What do you think can be done in the media to promote interracial relationships of all kinds instead of it always being white with minority person?
I just think that more movies and more filmmakers needs to just step up and just have the courage to be able to show more in terms of diversity. I mean, the reason why I could have chosen, a Caucasian person to play the black male lead, if I wanted to make more profit, but that's not a true story then. Or that's not, and my intention was really putting something out that really, really showed diversity in a movie whereby you hardly see it. And I may not have made the money, but at the end of the day, I needed to stay true to myself as a creative artist, and to the story. So my thing is more of people. If more people were to make movies or TV shows that portrays diversity, a mixed cultures and etc., I just think that people will start accepting it.
Okay. But it has to start, I guess, in the independent level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just harder when you're in mainstream Hollywood. My final question. Sorry.
I mean, in mainstream Hollywood, obviously, like I just recently saw the movie Set It Up with Tay Diggs and Lucy Liu. They ended up, well, halfway through the movie, they ended up being a couple. And so it's like Hollywood is trying, and obviously, whenever they try to do a interracial couple, it definitely helps when it's an A-list actor.
Yeah. But sometimes I feel like those, even when Hollywood does it, it doesn't necessarily pan out in real life. Like you mentioned Lucy Liu. And I know that she's dated like white men a lot. Like Sandra Oh, even though she got the Emmy and was portrayed with a black man, like she's married to a white guy and previously dated another white guy. So I feel like the media the media has so heavily focused on white men with Asian women that like even when you have non-white men paired with Asian women, and even Asian men, that it's not doing, I guess, enough to break that stereotype of white man, Asian woman, white man, Asian woman. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, the thing is that Hollywood kind of dominates, the whole pretty much the whole media world. And so that's why I was saying that, pretty much independent filmmakers will have to basically set up, if they have a voice and if they have a story to tell, to add on diversity to their movies. Yeah. Because I can tell you for sure, like, I grew up in Malaysia, and you learn from what you see. And, I watch TV and I'm like, oh my goodness, New York is so dangerous. I'll never go there. But I ended up in New York, because I came here for myself and I was like, oh, it's not the way it seems, it's not the way it was being portrayed. And so sometimes it's like you learn by, what you see. And so I think that, if more filmmakers definitely put out more movies that really exemplifies different cultures and mixed races of dating and relationships, it will definitely help to kind of throw the whole stigma off.
Does the media, just because you brought it up, like does the media portray romance in a different way in Malaysia in terms of like, is it white male, Asian female there, or like I know there's many white guys there, but is it more just Malaysian romance films? Do you know?
No, there aren't a lot of. Well, when I grew up in Malaysia, there really isn't a lot of filmmakers. There's probably like one really famous female filmmaker. But now I think, there are rising stars. There are two or three. We're more known for like commercials and etc., but not so much of films. And so a lot of the films that we watch on TVs are Americanized.
Okay.
So you're watching like, Beverly Hills 90210 or,
Yeah.
all sorts of different Hollywood movies.
Yeah. Okay. My final question is, do you plan on making any more films in the future?
Yes, I do. I actually have a couple of scripts on hand, and still working on it.
Well, those were all of my questions. I think I touched on some of the more controversial aspects, and I thank you for answering them because I know they can be kind of awkward to deal with sometimes. But thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I hope I was able to help your show in some way.